Welcome to Wise Elders Stories channel. Subscribe to Wise Elders Stories channel for more valuable insights. Have you ever sensed that your body is hindering you, particularly as the years go by? Are the activities you once cherished now mere echoes of the past, overshadowed by the annoyance of restricted movement? You're not alone. Countless older adults encounter this struggle. But what if we suggested that these changes need not dictate your existence? What if, rather than constraining your life, they could motivate you to uncover fresh avenues for movement, connection, and flourishing? In this video, we will delve into 7 impactful strategies designed to help you sustain your mobility and enhance your overall well-being. Finding harmony and embracing a rewarding existence, even if your steps have diminished. Whether facing arthritis, healing from an injury, or navigating the natural progression of age, we offer uplifting narratives and actionable guidance that can truly enhance your journey. From seated exercises to water workouts, strength training, and beyond, we will demonstrate how to remain vibrant, self-assured, and autonomous at any stage of life. These effective approaches extend beyond mere physical activity. They encompass a holistic approach to well-being. Reclaiming joy is essential for enhancing emotional well-being and fostering connections within a supportive community. We will share expert tips and resources that you can implement today for lasting improvements. If you're ready to take control of your health and explore new possibilities, stay with us until the end. This video could be your first step toward a more active, vibrant, and joyful future. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and activate the notification bell to stay updated on all our content. Your support truly means a lot to me. If you found this video enjoyable, your support in liking and sharing it would be greatly appreciated. If the topic resonates with you, please comment with a 1, if not, a 0 will help me understand how to enhance my content. Now, let's dive into the first story. Maria, at 68 years old, had always discovered freedom and fulfillment through dancing. It was more than just a pastime, it was the rhythm of her life, a means of expressing every facet of herself and her unique bond with the world. Surrounded by the rhythm, she found solace in the music, her body swaying with an elegance that made time stand still. In those fleeting moments, nothing else held significance. The joy of dancing had been her steadfast ally for years, until osteoarthritis crept in, an insidious thief that stole away her vitality. Walking, once a simple pleasure, transformed into a painful ordeal, each step a reminder of the vibrant, active woman she had been. As the days passed and the pain intensified, Maria felt fragments of herself slipping away, the thought of a life confined to a chair looming ever closer, a haunting specter of what could have been. To move the way she once had felt suffocating, her world seemed to shrink, and a profound sadness settled in her heart. The thought of never dancing again was nearly unbearable, and for a time, she almost surrendered. It felt as though her body had betrayed her, and the dreams she had cherished for so long were slipping away. However, Maria's doctor, a compassionate and understanding individual, offered a flicker of hope when he suggested chair-based exercises. Initially, Maria dismissed the idea, questioning how something so simple could ever compare to the passion she once felt. And joy that dancing had once given her, she doubted it would make a difference. After all, what was the point if it couldn't replace the rhythm of the dance floor? But as much as she hesitated, she decided to give it a try, if only to quiet the voice of doubt in her mind. To her surprise, chair yoga became a lifeline for Maria. It wasn't the same as dancing, of course, but it was movement, a way for her to reconnect with her body, to feel the flow of energy and strength return in a form she never imagined. Slowly, it began to work, the exercises gently. Her muscles grew stronger, her balance improved, and her body stretched in ways that were gentle on her joints. Slowly, she began to feel like herself again. Movement returned, breath flowed freely, and with each session, a long-lost joy emerged. Maria rediscovered her ability to express herself, albeit differently than before. The rhythm of her body remained, and she found herself weaving in her old dance moves, crafting a unique dance of healing and acceptance. What Maria didn't foresee was the hope that this new chapter would also usher in new friendships. She encountered individuals in her chair yoga class who grasped her struggles, who celebrated every small victory, and who shared their own stories of pain and recovery. The bond they formed was deep. These were people who recognized her not merely as someone with arthritis, but as a person with dreams, strength, and a heart that still yearned to dance. The group became a steadfast source of support, a reminder that even in the most challenging moments, there remained space for joy, laughter, and connection. Maria's journey through chair-based exercises not only revitalized her body but also rejuvenated her spirit. While it wasn't the same as dancing as she once did, it was sufficient, more than sufficient. For the first time in a long while, Maria sensed that her world was not contracting, it was expanding in ways she had never anticipated. She found hope, strength, and the conviction that, regardless of the obstacles life presented, there was always a path to progress. Story number 2. The power of aquatic exercise. John had always taken pride in his strength and independence. However, after his hip surgery at the age of 75, he found himself confronting an unexpected battle, one that was not only physical but emotional as well. The surgery had been successful, yes, but the recovery process became a relentless and seemingly endless struggle. Each day felt like a test of his patience and willpower. The fear of falling and re-injuring himself loomed over him like a shadow, and the thought of another fall was unbearable. He had chosen to steer clear of any form of exercise, believing it was the only way to safeguard himself. Yet, this decision only exacerbated his situation. His muscles grew weaker, his joints became rigid, and a profound sense of vulnerability settled deeper within him. John felt ensnared in his own body, unable to move with ease or embody the person he aspired to be. It was as if his body had turned against him. When his physical therapist proposed aquatic exercise, skepticism washed over him. The water now felt like an alien territory, a realm where his once athletic body felt awkward and out of place. He couldn't even swim properly anymore, and the idea of being seen struggling in front of others filled him with embarrassment. How could he possibly exercise in a way that might help him when he couldn't even face his limitations? But the therapist was persistent, assuring John that even the gentlest of movements in the water could make a world of difference. As much as John dreaded it, he agreed to give it a try. Oh, how everything changed the moment John stepped into the water. Something shifted. The buoyancy of the water cradled him, taking the weight off his aching joints. It was as though the water was holding him up in a way he'd never felt before. The gentle resistance of the water as he moved his limbs slowly and steadily allowed him to rebuild strength without the harsh impact he feared the most. The most surprising part was the emotional transformation that followed. For the first time in months, John felt a sense of freedom that he thought was long gone. There was no stiffness, no overwhelming fear, just the gentle rhythm of his body gliding in harmony with the water transcended mere physical activity. It became a pathway to mend his spirit and rediscover the essence of who he once was. The fear that had gripped him started to fade away, giving way to a deep sense of freedom and tranquility. What once felt like a confinement transformed into a vessel brimming with potential. If you are still engaged with this video and find these insights valuable, please comment one below to affirm your presence in this journey with me. In those moments, John unearthed the joy of. With each movement, the water transformed into a sanctuary, a sacred space where he not only fortified his body but also nourished his spirit. He discovered that healing transcended mere physical repair. It was about reclaiming the essence of the soul. In the embrace of the water, John found his liberation, and for the first time in ages, he realized he was not constrained by his limitations but rather defined by his resilience and his determination to try anew. The healing journey commenced with every gentle movement in the water. Story number 3, Walking Aids, Your Allies in Mobility. Sarah, a fiercely independent woman in her 80s, had long resisted using a walker. To her, it felt like an admission of defeat, a public symbol of aging and a tangible marker of vulnerability she wasn't ready to accept. She imagined that if she used a walker, she would appear fragile, as though she were surrendering to time, to the inevitable march of years that she'd spent her whole life defying. The very thought filled her with discomfort, a bitter taste of what she feared, looking old. So even though her balance had, over the years, her stability began to wane, and despite numerous close calls where she almost lost her balance, Sarah held tightly to her sense of pride. She convinced herself that as long as she avoided the walker, she could still cope, that she was resilient enough to navigate life independently. However, one fateful day, while making her way to the grocery store, the world around her shifted in an undeniable way. As she wobbled, her legs trembling, she sensed the ground giving way beneath her. For a heart-stopping moment, she feared she would tumble, her heart racing as a wave of panic surged through her chest, and in that instant, her determination to avoid looking frail became painfully clear. She wasn't protecting her independence, she was gambling with her safety, and the price of that gamble might have been far too high. That near fall was the wake-up call she needed. The reality of the situation hit her hard. Her pride was keeping her from living fully, from embracing a safer, more balanced life. She realized that the fear of appearing old had clouded her judgment, stopping her from seeing that using a walker didn't mean she was giving up. It meant she was choosing life. She had spent decades living independently, and now using a walker would allow her to maintain that independence only with added safety and confidence. It was not the end of her autonomy, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she could walk with assurance and joy, not fear and hesitation. The decision to finally embrace the walker wasn't easy, but it was a profound moment of self-realization. It wasn't about how others might see her, it was about how she saw herself. The walker was no longer a symbol of weakness transformed into a symbol of strength. It served as a tool for reclaiming her freedom, allowing her to continue exploring her neighborhood, visiting the farmer's market, greeting friends, and strolling to the park, all with a renewed sense of security. Sarah felt the weight lift from her shoulders as she realized that using a walker didn't diminish her dignity. Instead, it restored the very freedom she had feared losing. With each step, she walked with confidence and, more importantly, with peace of mind. That walker was not merely an object of equipment, it was her ally, her companion in the journey of life, enabling her to enjoy the world around her once more. Story number 4, Strength Training for Stability. David's legs felt like traitors, each step a reminder that the once strong, dependable limbs he had relied on throughout his life were beginning to betray him. At the age of 78, every day felt like a battle as his legs weakened further, leaving him struggling with even the simplest tasks like rising from a chair, climbing a single flight of stairs, or carrying a bag of groceries. Each small effort felt increasingly burdensome, and with every setback, his world contracted just a bit more. His independence, once a source of pride, was slipping away, and he could sense his confidence waning. A deep fear gripped him, the dread of being condemned to a life of growing immobility, forever restricted by the confines of his own body. He sought solutions, experimenting with exercises he discovered online, yet each attempt only seemed to deepen his anxieties. The movements proved too challenging. His muscles screamed in protest, and the frustration was overwhelming. Every workout felt like a risk, with a deep, underlying fear of injury gripping him. What if he pushed too hard and hurt himself? In those moments, his spirit sagged, and he doubted whether any of it was worth it. Was this really how the rest of his life was going to look? Then, like a beacon of hope, his doctor suggested something that turned his world around, working with a personal trainer who specialized in helping older adults. This was a life-changing decision. Yet, it arrived accompanied by a tide of unease. The idea of relying on another, of revealing his weaknesses and challenges, loomed large. However, upon meeting his new trainer, a wave of tranquility washed over him. The trainer's gentle, understanding nature stood in sharp relief to the anxiety and uncertainty David had been harboring. Together, they designed a program uniquely suited to David's requirements, one that would guide him gradually, carefully enhancing his strength. It commenced at a leisurely pace, almost imperceptibly, with light weights and resistance bands that seemed to barely register. Initially, it felt too simple, yet this gradual method was precisely what David required. The trainer ensured he grasped the significance of form and technique, highlighting safety to avert any additional injuries. David started to understand that this journey transcended mere weightlifting or exercise. It was about rediscovering purposeful movement and reclaiming control over his body, bit by bit. The path was far from straightforward. There were moments when his muscles ached so profoundly that he doubted his ability to persist. The slow progress brought its own frustrations. Progress threatened to overwhelm him, and there were moments when surrendering felt like the only choice. Yet, something transformed within him. He understood that true strength extended beyond mere physical ability. It encompassed mental fortitude. He started to acknowledge the small victories, the days when he could lift slightly more weight or when the stairs appeared less intimidating. Each minor improvement became a triumph. Gradually, his muscles gained strength, and with each day that passed, his confidence flourished. He didn't just. He regained his strength and sense of self, able to lift groceries without wincing in pain. He could run around with his grandchildren without feeling winded and confidently navigate stairs without fear. He felt steady again, not just in his body but in his spirit. His independence returned, bringing with it a renewed sense of freedom. The most incredible moment came when he joined a local hiking group. At one point, he thought he would never walk another trail again, that the outdoors would remain out of reach, but there he stood, tall and smiling, stepping into a new chapter of his life. In that moment, David understood that strength training had bestowed upon him more than mere physical power. It had granted him a fresh perspective and a freedom he hadn't dared to dream of for years. Story number 5, the significance of regular stretching. Eleanor had always been a lively and active woman, but as the years went by, her body began to falter. By the time she reached 80, her joints had stiffened, and the persistent aches in her. The muscles throbbed with an intensity that was hard to ignore. It was more than just fleeting discomfort, it was a relentless ache, a constant echo of time slipping away. Simple daily tasks, which others completed effortlessly, transformed into Herculean challenges. Putting on clothes became a daunting endeavor, and bending down to tie her shoes felt like facing an impossible hurdle. The mere idea of stooping to retrieve something she had dropped sent waves of dread through her. The agony was not only physical but also deeply emotional, leaving Eleanor engulfed in a sense of powerlessness and despair. She felt ensnared in a body that had ceased to cooperate. Way it used to be felt like her age had transformed into an insurmountable barrier, and she had lost all hope of overcoming it. The dread of movement, the incessant anxiety that any misstep could amplify her discomfort, kept her rooted in place. She believed that stretching was meant for the young, those unburdened by pain. At her age, what was the point? It seemed too late to effect any change. She thought it was a practice reserved for those untouched by years of wear and tear on their bodies. But then came the day when her doctor, with a kind yet firm voice, conveyed the truth she had been evading. Stretching was essential for preserving flexibility. Particularly as one ages, it wasn't merely a luxury or something reserved for the younger crowd, it was a necessity for alleviating pain and sustaining mobility. He provided her with hope where she believed none was available. He proposed gentle stretches that could be performed in the comfort of her own home and directed her to a physical therapist who would instruct her on the correct techniques to safely regain her flexibility. At first, Eleanor, fear gripped her. A paralyzing terror that made her question her ability to move forward. What if her actions only exacerbated the situation? The dread of causing herself harm kept her frozen in place, caught in a web of hesitation. Yet, beneath the surface, a flicker of determination began to awaken. Perhaps it was the desire to reclaim some semblance of control over her life, or the yearning for a taste of freedom that finally compelled her to take that initial step. She began tentatively, engaging in the most basic stretches, each motion feeling increasingly alien. However, with every careful attempt, Eleanor sensed a shift within her. She was not merely easing into movement. The physical tension that had taken root in her body began to dissipate as she let go of emotional burdens she hadn't even recognized she was holding. With each passing day, the stiffness in her joints eased, and the pain that had once been constant and relentless transformed into something manageable. It was no longer an all-consuming force. She started to sense the possibility of movement once more, the joy of bending down to tend her beloved garden, a simple pleasure she had feared was lost forever. It felt as if her body was recalling its capabilities, and in turn, her spirit felt lighter, more hopeful. A long-forgotten sense of independence returned, and she found herself taking daily walks with her dog, something that seemed impossible just months earlier. Stretching became more than just a physical activity, it became a gateway to emotional release, to healing that transcended her muscles. It taught her that it wasn't too late to take control of her health. It wasn't just about bending and stretching her body, it was about stretching her heart, letting go of years of built-up frustration and fear. Doubted it was the kind of transformation that transcended physicality and reached deep into the soul. She learned that age wasn't a barrier but an opportunity for rebirth, a chance to let go of the past and embrace the possibilities of the future, one stretch at a time. Story number 6, Balance Training. Robert's life took an unexpected turn when a fall in his early 70s shattered his sense of security. It wasn't just the physical pain that lingered, it was the crippling fear that followed every step he took. After that fall, each step felt like a gamble. He found himself perpetually tense, convinced that any misstep would lead to another fall. That fear clutched at him in unexpected ways, gradually wearing down his confidence and leaving him feeling confined within his own walls. Even the straightforward act of stepping outside for a walk transformed into a formidable task. The world beyond his door had morphed into a wellspring of anxiety, and he felt utterly isolated in his struggle. When his daughter proposed Tai Chi as a means to restore his equilibrium, Robert instinctively pulled back, dismissing it with, "That's too slow for me." He pondered his lack of coordination, fearing he would only embarrass himself. Doubts flooded his mind, yet a flicker of curiosity ignited within him. Could something so gentle truly make a difference? Eager for change, he resolved to give it a try, unaware that this seemingly small decision would spark a profound transformation. Through Tai Chi, he uncovered not just the elegance of slow movements, but also a renewed sense of his body's strength, balance, and coordination, elements he had long overlooked. Believing he had lost forever, each movement, no matter how slow or deliberate, became a step toward constructing something more resilient within himself. The practice not only stabilized him physically but also initiated an emotional healing process. As he navigated through the fluid motions, he experienced a profound sense of grounding, as if his feet were firmly anchored to the earth below. The fear that had once held him captive began to release its hold, allowing his newfound confidence to flourish. What had once appeared unattainable, walking with purpose and assurance, transformed into a source of joy once more. Robert was no longer burdened by the relentless fear of falling. He discovered a newfound freedom in movement. Even more remarkably, he began to share this strength with others. He started teaching Tai Chi at his local senior center, dedicating himself to the classes, fully aware of how profoundly the practice had changed his life. It transcended mere balance. It became a journey of connection and empowerment for those who, like him, had battled the heavy weight of fear. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons valuable, please leave a comment below. To let me know that you are still here with me. For the first time in years, Robert didn't feel isolated. The fear had been replaced with a sense of purpose, and the community he built around Tai Chi became his anchor. He was no longer just a man who had fallen, he was a man who had risen, who was helping others rise with him. Walking through the park once again felt liberating, not burdened by fear but fueled by the joy of movement. As he looked around at the faces of his students, he realized he had not only regained his balance, he had rediscovered a sense of belonging, empowerment, and most of all, hope. Story number 7, Listen to your body and pace yourself. Margaret, a woman in her early 70s, was full of determination. She refused to let aging slow her down, believing that staying active was the key to maintaining her vitality. Every day, she laced up her shoes and set out, pushing herself to keep pace with younger versions of herself. However, in her determination to stay strong, she often ignored the subtle yet telling signs her body was giving her: the aches, the stiffness in her joints, the little twinges of discomfort. All these were her body's desperate attempts to get her to slow down, to take a break. But Margaret, ever so resolute, pushed through them, convinced that if she just kept going she would maintain her health. But it wasn't long before the exhaustion set in. She would return home drained of energy, frustrated with herself for not being able to keep up with the pace she set. Worse still, there were times when pushing herself too hard resulted in injuries, small but enough to keep her off her feet for days, sometimes even weeks. These setbacks were disheartening, especially when she realized that they were entirely avoidable. One day, as she sat resting after yet another painful episode, she had an epiphany. The idea of staying active wasn't about pushing her body beyond its limits. It wasn't about sprinting to some impossible finish line of youth. No, the key was finding a sustainable rhythm, a way to keep moving without overtaxing her body, a way to honor her body's needs instead of rebelling against them. As Margaret tuned into her body's signals, she became attuned to the onset of fatigue and the familiar aches that urged her to pause. Rather than pushing through lengthy walks, she opted for shorter strolls, welcoming the notion that even the tiniest progress counted. What truly astonished her was the newfound joy she found in these walks. The weight of expectation lifted, allowing her to fully savor the beauty of her surroundings. In the gentle embrace of simple moments, she found joy in the fresh air and the soothing sounds of nature. Most importantly, she cherished the connection with her friends. No longer did she rush through life. Instead, she allowed herself to savor every second. During this journey, she discovered something profound. Rest was not a sign of weakness, but rather an essential component of a fuller, more fulfilling life. She learned the importance of balance, recognizing that rest, recovery, and mindful movement were key to her continued mobility and happiness. There was no need for self-criticism. Her body deserved respect, patience, and understanding. It was a lesson in self-compassion, a realization that by being gentle with herself, she could still enjoy all the wonderful things life had to offer, even if those walks were shorter and less frequent. So, if you're in a similar place, remember her journey. It's not about striving to meet some unrealistic standard. It's about listening to your body, respecting its limits, and finding a pace that works for you. It's about doing what feels good, not pushing for more. To enhance your mobility and enrich your life, consider these 7 straightforward actions, even if your walking has decreased. Explore chair-based exercises and consider aquatic workouts. Embrace walking aids and incorporate strength training into your routine. Remember to stretch regularly and prioritize balance training. Pay attention to your body and set a comfortable pace. This is your opportunity to take action today. Reach out to the resources we've provided below and consult with your doctor, a physical therapist, or other healthcare professionals. Reach out to your nearby senior center or community center and keep in mind that it's perfectly fine to progress at your own speed. You have every right to live life to the fullest, regardless of how quickly you move. As we conclude today's video, take a moment to think about the insights you've gained. The path to preserving your mobility and well-being isn't about achieving perfection. It's about tuning into your body, practicing self-compassion, and discovering a pace that suits you. So, what's one takeaway from today that you're eager to incorporate into your life? Perhaps it's the significance of pacing. Whether it's focusing on self-care or recognizing the importance of rest in your wellness journey, we want to hear from you. Please share a lesson you're dedicated to implementing in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, we'd appreciate your feedback. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content. Thank you for watching, and remember to prioritize your well-being. Your body will appreciate it.